right now.
There we go. Okay. All right then. Take it away, Lacey.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being with us in person and or electronically, as some of us are here in multiple meetings. Sarah. This is a little meeting to kind of introduce you to what the City Nature is, how it will operate, how you could be participating in it as an individual or as a representative of an organization, and give you a chance to ask some of the sort of logistical questions and get an idea of what it is we're doing and whether or not you want to be a part of it and how. As I mentioned before we were recording, what I think is one of the beautiful things about CNC is that you can be as involved and invest as much time and energy in it as you want. And so there's a lot of flexibility in how you can participate without overstretching yourself, which I have found is very important for me.
Yeah, working principle for the whole
Right,
group.
yeah. So we're going to start with a couple of slides to show you how it operates, kind of the history of what this works. We'll introduce there's three of us here of the organizers present, and we'll tell you about the other two so you have a face to put with a name. And then we'll give you a chance to introduce yourselves too, so we know what type of organizations you represent, if you might be interested in doing. And then at the end, we'll do, if you have time, you can stay and we'll do a little iNaturalist, go ahead and use it, and answer any questions you have. So let's go ahead and get started. They can see the slides, right? All right, so who are we? Sarah, do you want to start?
Hello. I'm Sarah. Hello, and I'm program. The headquarters, we have 3 of them, but I'm at the Davis one, which is across the street from where we are now. And my involvement is to primarily get our California Naturalists out there, involved in whatever events are going on, or even just get out on their own. But it's a really great opportunity for California Naturalists to get together with their cohorts and other cohorts from across the years and kind of reconnect and see what everybody's up to. So for them to kind of offer their.
Do you want me to go off the budget, or do you want me to go off with like?
Could all y'all listening please mute yourselves? We're getting some background.
These calculations don't really make a lot of sense. And like they didn't give me like a layout for like how they want these percentages calculated, and they didn't give an explanation for how they want it calculated. So I'm a little confused.
On that, I'll introduce myself. I'm Lacey, in the Evolution and Ecology Department at UC Davis. And Sarah and I got together because I'm starting a new California Naturalist training course that's offered through the Davis campus, which is called Wild Davis. It's focused on urban ecology and urban green spaces. And so part of the CalNat courses is like one of the requirements is that you do an iNaturalist project and a citizen science component. And so as we were looking into options for that in the area, we got excited about City Nature Challenge and linked up with Ryan, who's about to introduce himself, and it sort of blossomed from there. So my major contribution will be working with campus, which is why we should talk, particularly in leveraging my students to be participants in this and to kind of hopefully metastasize out from there.
What a nice metaphor. Hi everyone, my name is Ryan Meyer, and I work at the Center for Community and Citizen Science, which is based in the School of Education at UC Davis. And we are a research center. We do research on public participation in science, which, as you probably know, takes a lot of different kinds of forms. And in that research, we do a lot of collaboration with groups, and we're often doing a mix of supporting programs and conducting research on programs. And so anyway, we're interested in working on the City Nature Challenge in Sacramento because we've worked with the San Francisco folks who started this whole thing and the LA folks who started this whole thing, and we're feeling kind of jealous of them.
Speak for yourself.
And maybe a little bit competitive.
I want it to be Davis against
and yes, yeah, so we wanted to kind of stick it to those guys because, you know, friendly rivalry. But also, just felt like a good way to explore partnerships and mutual interests in this region. And we also do a lot of work on education. Peggy might say a couple things about that. She works with us and does a lot of amazing work. And so that our role will also be to make some education links, especially formal education.
Yeah. And I'll introduce Shelly since she's not here. What was fabulous was that the three of us were sort of wallowing in how we wanted to do this and how we wanted to make decisions and plan things, organize things. And out of the blue, I got an email from Shelly, who had recently moved to Davis. And in the past 2 places she's lived in the past 2 years, had run her own city nature challenges. In Oregon, she was the single organizer and led it there. And then I think in Miami, she was part of a team. So she's done this twice in 2 different cities. Totally different, as you can imagine. Miami versus the Southern Oregon region are slightly different in their urban background and their nature and stuff. So she has a lot of experience with the CNC specifically. And her background is in a lot of citizen science related sort of museum education based work. Mm-hmm. So she's been really helpful for us in the logistics and knowing what we're doing. And then Juliana is not here either. She's an intern on the project helping us with a lot of the logistics. She's an undergrad at Davis, majoring in environmental science and policy and minoring in education. Mm-hmm. So she's been helping us with a lot of the logistics. So those are the people who...
I also know that she's also exploring links with high schools and high school clubs.
Yes, working on some lesson plans.
Something in case others have leads to her.
Bringing into classrooms, etc. Yeah. So let's now take a moment to introduce yourselves. Let's start with the folks here in the physical room, and then we can do the folks on Zoom. And if you don't have audio, you can type it into the chat, and I can read it for you, or we'll work through the unmuting with the chat. So
I'll start. My name is Corky. My specialty is bats. I work for the Yola Basin Foundation here in Davis, and I have never used iNaturalist.
I knew you using her. Yes.
My name is Michael, and I work for the Yola Basin Foundation also, and I have never used iNaturalist. Awesome.
I would say I hadn't until I started talking with you about this class.
My name is Peggy Hart. I am a fellow here at the Citizen Science Center, and I'm also an elementary science teacher. And I had not had much experience with iNaturalist until about a month ago when Juliana Yee and I started writing lesson plans to deliver to after-school educators to start preparing for the City Nature Challenge. So it's been the speed dial version of the learning curve there. So I would say I'm still probably like a 3, but that's just in the last month. But just today delivered our first intro lesson to an after-school program in Davis, or Woodland. Yeah.
Cool. Hi, I'm Caroline Knoll. I'm an undergrad student at UC Davis studying wildlife, fish, and conservation biology, and I am the president of the environmental club at UC Davis. I have actually never used iNaturalist. I've used field guides, but not iNaturalist before, so that'll be an interesting exploration.
So if you guys can hang out after we're done with the meeting, we can do a little practice run outside and show you how it works. It's remarkably user-friendly and straightforward. I really love it.
Could you unmute some folks?
Yeah. Yes.
All right. Who should we start with?
How about Paul? Do you want to introduce yourself?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, so I'm Paul Haverman, and I am a reserve steward with UC Davis Natural Reserve System. We have Jepson Prairie, Stebbins Coal Canyon, and Quail Ridge reserves that we oversee out of Davis. And I'm relatively novice with iNaturalist. I was involved with a bioblitz with the Forest Service a year ago up in the Sierras, but relatively new to the concept.
All right.
Thanks, Paul.
Okay.
Who's next?
How about Dylan? Are you there, Dylan?
Yeah, if you saw an old old homestead photo, that's an Eldorado Ranch, and that's probably that might have been about a hike.
I wonder if Dylan's on the phone.
Yeah, Eldorado Ranch is out on the Summers River off of Highway 49 and Crystal Boulevard by Bobby's Country.
You can type it into the chat. How about
Powerhouse. There it is.
Oh, do you want to do?
He did just type it into the
Oh, and another person came up.
How about David? David, can you hear us?
Oh,
Oh, there's Dave.
Oh, okay.
there's David. He's from Powerhouse Science Center, also an iNaturalist novice. Excellent. Cliff Hawley with Central Valley Bird Club and Sacramento Audubon Society. Super comfortable with iNaturalist. Been using it for several years. Teach people on my bird walks about using it in conjunction with their entering lists for eBird. Excellent. Encouraging them to use iNet for other tabs. So wonderful.
David can hear us, but he doesn't have a microphone.
Okay, well, thank you, David.
Okay, thanks, David. Okay.
Who's next, Sarah?
Sheila. Oh, she doesn't have a microphone either.
Okay. Okay.
Sheila's the Public Engagement Manager at the Powerhouse Science Center, and she has also never used iNaturalist. Looking forward to getting more familiar with it. Thanks, Sheila. Is there anybody else?
Looks like Vermifly. Oh, we heard from.
Yep, we're good. We got him.
Yeah,
Cliff
so we
Hawley.
heard.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Okay, great. Okay.
Excellent. All right, well, welcome everyone. Thanks for coming, even though you've never used iNaturalist before. We're glad that that's not terrifying.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about what the City Nature Challenge is. It was started in 2016 as a competition between the California Academy of Sciences in San Francisco and the Natural History Museum of Los Angeles County as a city competition between those two areas to see who could find the most biodiversity in a particular weekend. The first week, or the first year, as I said, there were just those two cities. Over 1,000 people participated, posting things to iNat. Almost 20,000 individual observations representing over 2,500 different species were made just in that. Was it a 4-day weekend already that year?
I think
Or
it
just
was
a
like a
2-day?
week.
I think it was a whole week.
Yeah.
Oh, it was
Yeah.
longer then.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was longer.
So as we said, it was just these two counties. They recorded it in iNaturalist, and then they compete to see who could do better. So we see that LA came out a little bit ahead in number of observations and in species, and the number of people participating, which is the things that they primarily track that first year. By 2017, they had 16 different cities on track, over 4,000 people across all of those, 125,000 observations, 86,000, oh no, that's a typo. This says 86,000 and that says 8,600. So we should
I think 8,600 is probably.
Yeah, I think 8,600. That's impressive.
Wow, that's on their website. We should tell them.
Right, we should
Oh
talk
yeah,
about
that's our typo. That's a big typo.
But also what's interesting is the almost 400 rare, endangered, and threatened species. So iNet does have in place ways to identify rare, endangered, and threatened and keep its exact location blurred, I think they call it,
Yeah.
hidden,
Yeah.
so that you're not outing the location of an endangered organism, but documenting generally where it is. So in 2017, the most observations, these are the three categories they primarily track. Most observations went to Dallas-Fort Worth. Most species went to Houston. I've been told that they kill it with the moth nighttime bioblitz.
Yeah.
And so they found
Black
both
light.
2017 and 2018 found quite a bit of moth species.
Sneaky.
So I'm trying to get the Bohart to do one of those. And then Los Angeles had the most overall participants. 2018, we see these numbers still going up. Here we have 8,600 again. Here we
Same
go.
number of species, or a massive dip, depending on how you look at it.
Yes. And in this one, San Francisco swept all three categories. So they're the crowning reigning champion, partly because their region is enormous, which we'll talk about in a second. So for 2019, because that's what year it is now, we have 160 different cities or regions or metro areas participating globally. As you see, South America is very well represented this year, which was not as much in the past.
Okay, can we just pause for 1 second?
Oh yes, we have some other announcements.
Dylan was saying, he's with the American River Conservancy as a stewardship manager, halfway through the California Naturalist class. Oh, great! And so have some experience with iNaturalist. And then Cliff was saying insects and plants are where the big species tallies come in. Fish are always way underrepresented. Great call.
In fact, some of
It's
them
harder to get to those.
Yeah, some of
They
them
were-
coastal.
It said there were 3 and you only read 2.
Oh, sorry. Let's go back. What did I miss?
Oh, Cliff has participated in the Bay Area.
Oh,
CNC class
okay,
as
great. Well,
Excellent.
we're happy to cut down on the commute for you.
Yeah. Yes, and
And the competition.
Yeah.
Right, and yeah, we need to
Reminder
suck
to
some of the
fishermen on some local Facebook groups.
Oh,
Oh,
that's
excellent.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I know that there's a project on the LA River that's had some success engaging fishermen as well through an iNaturalist project. So that's an interesting connection. I think they also use Facebook to work on that.
And you
Yep,
can
awesome.
post aquatic species to iNaturalist. The coastal cities are now talking about having, so in the region on iNaturalist, there's a buffer into the water. So if you're going scuba diving or whatever, you can identify species there, and they do count towards the land-based stuff. For us, I think Tahoe is our only major aquatic.
Well, there's the rivers.
And the
Yeah, but I mean, of like a body that
Oh,
you would
yes.
be swimming around.
Oh, yeah.
That's
You
probably.
swim in a river. Maybe not in a school.
I grew up in Kansas, so I always forget that you can swim. Because rivers in Kansas, you definitely cannot swim. And especially now with how much rain we've gotten, there is a lot of.
That's why you might not want to.
Yeah, good point. All right, so how this works in the flash forward quick version. Here is our region. It is
Wow.
Enormous.
9 counties. The reason we did this, yes, so that's our first question. Why so huge? We get that quite a bit. For various reasons, political boundaries are the easiest way to delineate your region, partly because that's the easiest way to put it into iNaturalist for a region, and because the overall CNC organizers are really interested in tracking land area and population that are included in these, and that's a lot easier to do if you're doing political boundaries. So we decided to do every county that sort of abuts the Sacramento metro area. And given the shape of some of our counties,
Go all the way to the back.
that goes all the way right to the state boundary. So we get an unintentionally large area here. But the more we thought about it, the more we're really okay with that, because it includes a variety of different ecosystems and habitats, the full spread from urban to very non-urban ecosystems. And as we mentioned, I think we have a couple of explanations here. Yeah. It helps us compete a little bit better with some of those other large regions if we also have a large region.
Yeah. On a population basis, we're still
very small.
low.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
It's 3 million versus 7 million in the Bay Area and 10 million in LA County alone.
right. So we are a large physical area, but not necessarily a large population base to contribute. Right. Ryan pointed out we spent a long time as the organizer staring at this blob, and so Ryan likes to say that it's a mouth eating the bay.
Yeah.
If you look over here.
Bear.
Yeah, ooh, a bear. I like that better. I think it's a woman wearing a bonnet. This is her nose over here. And she's facing east, and so this is like the bow of her bonnet.
That's very nice.
Yes, that's a lot nicer than a bear eating the bay, but to each their own. Anyway, this means any iNaturalist observation made by any person of any organism in this region during the 4-day window will count towards our total. It does not have to be part of an official event. It does not have to be somebody who is from the area. They can be visiting and post something. Basically anything that is uploaded in that window counts for us. How we're trying then to get a lot of stuff posted is through these events, but it doesn't have to be done that way. So this is where
Walk into your backyard.
right, your CalNat members can go out, people that are affiliated with the Olo Basin, your club can go out and do your own thing. It doesn't have to be part of an official event. We are planning a variety of bioblitzes. There's 3 types of events we have for this. The big one are the bioblitzes, where you go out and actually post. You get people to find wildlife, take pictures of it, post a time. In prep for that, we're going to have a couple of iNaturalist training parties. One on campus and one in the public library here, and then do we have any others scheduled right now? The training parties?
Public
think we have a
Library,
slide about that.
Shields.
Coming up, okay. And that's to help people know how to use iNaturalist, advertise it as a platform. And then the bioblitzes themselves, and then afterwards, the last one on that list there is the identification parties, where people who want to learn how to ID things better, and especially people who are good at IDing things, can come together and go through the stuff that's actually posted on iNaturalist and identify for sure what it is. Our goal for what gets posted is wild organisms, so not things that are captive or cultivated, and that are identified to species level and which have been confirmed by at least 2 people. And that's when you get what's called a research grade post. So we're confident what the organism is, multiple people agree, it's identifying more than just spider or plant or something like that. And that's what counts for the research grade post.
Does it have to be a picture?
No, you can do audio files, calls of things. You can have a post with no identifying information. You can claim that you can say, I saw it, but I don't have any evidence. Those don't count for the City Nature Challenge, but you can post things to iNaturalist that way. And it doesn't have to be a photo of the organism. You can use track or other sign, especially scat is somewhat common on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, And so there's a special button you can push that says this isn't the organism, it's evidence of the organism.
And you get a twofer,
Well,
right?
Yeah.
What's in the scat, feather in the scat.
Yes, so I've done that I love taking pollinator photos, and so I posted twice, once as the pollinator and once as the flower. So yeah, those are, ecological interactions are the best way to do this, for sure.
Well,
Says the
there's-
ecologist.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm getting ahead of myself. Not surprising. How a bioblitz works, right, is you get a group of people to go to a particular area and wander around somewhat loosely together and take pictures of things, and then often help them upload it and identify it. This is a good way to get people, especially who are maybe not as comfortable with iNaturalist as a platform or not as confident in their identifying skills, to go out and do it when it's part of the group.
It is worth pointing out that you don't need to have any identifying skills at all to participate.
Mhm.
Because part of the brilliance of iNaturalist is that it's a community of people who help with that. So you can upload a picture of anything, and either an artificial intelligence algorithm or, and also usually a person will weigh in on what they think that is, and then you learn.
Right, so as we'll show you when we get to the iNat stuff, when you take a picture, it'll say, that kind of looks like this, and some of those have been found in this area recently, and it'll give you some suggestions, and you can scroll through information and other photos about that organism to see if it matches what you have. Even if you're not sure, it will tell you the family or the genus, and you can say, okay, I'm pretty sure it's part of that broader group, and come back and identify it to species level later. Or, as Ryan said, there are a lot of users who go through on iNat stuff that has not been identified to species level and suggest things for it. And for instance, one dragonfly photo I posted, I don't know species of dragonfly, so I put dragonfly. And two people I don't even know, never met them before in my life, tagged each other, and one person said, oh, I think that's a blah, 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 like so-and-so, like, weigh in, what do you think? And they talked about it right there in the photo, and they sort of came to a consensus and identified as something, and I was like, sure, that sounds good. But so there is actually a community. When I first heard about this, I was like, oh, sure, people are just spending their free time going around identifying photos of animals, and they really are. Yeah, they really will go on there and do it. So there is a robust community of people assisting you in that, or confirming what you identified it as.
Yeah, and there are, every sort of species has some nerd somewhere who has an alert set up that if someone takes a picture of it, it pings them and they go in and they.
Or in a region.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
or types of organisms.
Yeah.
So when I first started using it, I took my parents to Yosemite, and this was when we had first agreed on this. I was like, oh, I'll try it in Yosemite. There's tons of stuff to take back to photos of. And I would post a picture of something, and the next day, the California Endemic Species Project had tagged my photo. And I was like, oh, I'm part of the endemic species group, right? And so you can then go on iNat and go to those projects or those groups and learn a lot about where those organisms are or what's going on. It is a really robust platform, which I am, once again, getting way ahead of myself on. The moth lighting event, if anyone is interested in doing this, as I mentioned, I've reached out to the Bohart Museum, but I haven't heard back yet. We really want to hold one of these, and it involves basically a sheet and some flashlights, and as you attract them, you can get pretty close and get decent photos, and you can get a lot of species that you're not going to see at other times in one of these nocturnal events. So that's one we're still.
Nocturnal event.
Yeah.
I mean, it's certainly something like that could be done. Our site's going to be a night evening.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Well, but we don't. Is what they're saying.
Nice.
But it would be nice.
Yeah, it's nice if
about
someone's on
Dave,
here.
right. Because I don't know how much he knows about the ones here, but he does that in Belize.
Oh, perfect. Wow. Yeah.
I don't know what he knows about the ones in Sacramento.
Testing.
Excellent. Yeah.
He doesn't need to know a lot because iNaturalist is
And he
there.
might. I mean, he's a professor in Sacramento.
So the other way to do this, and this is more of a structured bioblitz with the guided nature walk, is to go on a particular trail or path. And part of the purpose there is also then to go on the hike, as opposed to a straight bioblitz where you're not necessarily on a path or a trail. So there's a variety of ways to structure this. I'm going to do a bioblitz on campus. We're going to start in the quad, make sure everybody knows how to use iNat, and then just like disperse them. I hope to have some people in the Arboretum to serve as little guides. And then hopefully part of the goal of this is not go out somewhere to nature that you think is separate, but also look at the nature that's around you in urban centers. So we have a variety of, like Paul with the reserve systems is going to do something kind of like this guided nature walk, but then we also want to do something in the more urban centers to show that there's nature there too. So that's an important component of this as well. The ID part is,
counted if the the animal comes into your building?
Sure.
Yes, so long as it is not so long as it's not captive or cultivated,
Right.
it counts, even if it's indoors.
There's an iNaturalist project called Never Alone.
Oh,
And
yes.
It is purely for insects inside.
Okay.
Yeah.
They want to know more about what
comes in?
what insects are people are
You get
sharing
all
their
kinds of
indoor spaces.
Yes, I think about that. I keep waiting for finding like a bug in my house so I can contribute to that because I love the concept.
I just took one out.
Yeah.
Big old pumpkin spider.
So the iNaturalist training parties will occur before the actual event, and then of course all of the bioblitzes and the big push will occur during the 4-day City Nature Challenge window. And then after that window is over, we have a week to make sure everything gets actually posted and to get it identified to species level, which is what we need for it to count.
How are you going to do that with insects? The species level, or even some of the
Oh,
plants?
sometimes you can't. So there are ways for certain organisms, especially if the photo is not of good enough quality or it's a group that is too difficult to tell from photos, you can get it down to like genus level and you can mark this is the best you can do with this evidence, unless you have the organism in hand. And that counts for species level then. And there will be one of these on campus. I don't think we have any others scheduled right now.
ID parties?
Yes. And my goal with this is
But we'd
to
love
have a
for more to be
mix of,
scheduled.
yeah. I hope to have a mix of people who are good at identifying them and people who want to learn how to better identify, working together to look up information on what things might be and how to better identify them. Which leads us a little bit into—
Can I say something about
Of
the
course.
ID party? You're only going to be identifying observations that were taken during the period of the City Nature Challenge. So that way they get contributed to your overall total.
If you get excited about it though, like run like the wind and do
Sure.
all of them.
Yeah.
if you want. Yeah.
Go
Yeah,
crazy.
I forget what I was going to say about ID parties, but I was going to also say about these events. We're saying that this, that, and the other event are scheduled, but there is no sort of one authority over what is and is not a City Nature Challenge event. These
Right.
are all things that anyone can just sort of hold an event and there's no need to like
Yeah, they
approve
can get
it
their
or
neighbors
anything.
to go for a walk in their neighborhood, and that's an event.
Right, and the only reason we've been scheduling things and advertising them on the website is partly to promote that they're occurring. And for things like the campus one, we want to get people to show up. If your club wants to go do a little your club only bioblitz, that's totally fine. We're happy to list it if you want, or you can just do it on your own without.
Have you guys talked to Seed?
I have, yeah.
Okay, yeah, 'cause they're very big in the violets.
They are also big into the undergraduate research conference, which is
Yeah.
occurring Friday of the City Nature Challenge window, and they have some other events that they're going to be out of time for. So they're contributing, but they're not going to be as big as they will.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Wildlife Society is also on board.
Okay, sweet.
In fact, Seeds had floated the idea of an inter-club competition, like
Yeah,
a
that's
subset
what I was
of
thinking about too.
Yes,
Yeah,
okay, because we can totally do that. And my class will be doing data projects on City Nature Challenge, so we can make it one of our class projects to determine which of the data clubs wins.
Cool. Yeah, that's
We can
really
support the awarding of prizes that way.
You gotta do it on species, not number of observations.
Yes, because otherwise 9,000 pictures of squirrels in the quad only count as one.
Right.
There might be two species out there.
There, okay, one for fox squirrel and one for the red squirrel.
Is there a gray squirrel?
Whatever. Anyway.
Professor Lacey.
In my defense, I entered 700 student grades today, and my brain is a little bit muddled. So, these are the somewhat unofficial list of things we have scheduled so far. Yes, there are similar
Yes. Right.
stuff going on.
Sorry, we're a little slow in the chat.
Also to note, as I discussed with our Stebbins person, Paul, technically the UC Davis Reserve lands are not in our window. They are in the Bay Area. Yes, we are all
Mad about that.
Okay, I'm trying to look for the appropriate word.
Resentful?
Working to resolve that.
Yeah.
I approached them about it, and given the political boundaries question, it's complicated to get those lands back. So what I'm hoping to do this year is have a big push on our reserve lands and show them how much more activity there is in those reserve lands when we are advertising it than when they had owned those lands, and show that most of the people operating there are from Davis.
Some anthropology student has to do a paper on the geopolitics of the City Nature Challenge.
Yeah, when someone first asked us why our region was so big, I joked on our Slack channel. The short answer is political boundaries and manifestos.
Oh, Shelley is here.
Hi, Shelley. We introduced you before you came.
We should just annex Lano. I agree.
Yeah, Ryan's down for annexing.
Yeah.
So technically it's not, but our end goal with all of this is just get people out and doing stuff. So we don't feel strongly that we are accidentally promoting areas that contribute to other people. That's not.
The point is to get people out.
Yes, yeah. So, how iNaturalist works on a basic sort of
Actually,
crash
can we
course.
go back for a second?
I don't know how to go back. Oh yes, I do. Here we go. To what?
If there
To here?
are any updates or,
Oh, yes.
if anyone wants to talk about any of their specific events, since they're listed up there,
Oh yeah, chime in.
I feel free. I think I can unmute people. Or you can unmute yourself as well.
Who calls her?
Sure.
Oh, there's the chat. I got it.
Okay. All right, so Cliff says they have a field trip to the Central Valley Bird Club for your members going on at Sutter Buttes on Sunday. Excellent.
Fantastic.
That sounds
And
fun.
we can add any events to the website and the calendar and stuff. If they're private, we can just list them as private, or
Right. I will say,
or
if you do
just
have an event,
contact info or whatever.
even if you don't want it advertised through our website, it would be helpful for us to know, because the broad organizers are trying to track a lot of data about the outreach, like how far a lot of this is hitting. So we have been reporting to them what events we're holding, and we're planning to try to get tracks of head counts. And so even if you don't want it advertised through our website, it would be helpful to let us know if you're holding some sort of event affiliated with this, just so we can list it.
What paper is this again?
April 26th through the 29th, which is a Friday through Monday.
Oh, I'll add some.
Okay.
I have organized little mini bioblitzes to take place at our agriculture and natural resources building,
Oh, nice.
just for those guys.
Yes, I thought
On Friday and Monday.
we should contact the Middle Mountain Interpretive Hikes group. Oh, I don't even know about that.
Oh, Middle Mountain.
Oh, yeah, we will look into that.
All right.
Thanks for the suggestion.
That's
Okay.
Sarah, are you able to add that to our list? I can't
Sure.
mess with it on this computer as we have this presentation.
So for those of you now who are new to iNaturalist, we're going to take a little kind of crash course in how it operates. It's, as someone who came to this relatively recently as well, I can tell you that it's very user-friendly. Oh, bat and ringtail research.
That's Dave Wyatt that I was just talking about with the moths.
There we go.
Oh, perfect. Okay,
Same guy.
great. So you take a photo and then you just upload it to iNaturalist. If you use any other social media like Instagram or Twitter or anything, it works almost exactly the same. So you take a photo, you hit share, it goes up there. It will suggest a particular species or list of species. You can scroll through things and check, like I mentioned. If you don't think it's the species that's listed there, or you can't tell, frequently when I'm on my phone, I want to look at the comparison pictures on my computer where I can see them larger and compare more detail. So I tend to, if I'm on my phone, I tend to post this as a family with a genus and go back and double check later when I have a larger screen and update it. I actually do most of iNat from my computer and not from my phone because I prefer to use my SLR and get better quality pictures than my phone can take, or take pictures of things from further away. And you can use both exactly the same.
Right. You can upload later on. Geotagging is something you can either do manual later on, or if your camera has a geotag.
Yes, that's good to mention. So if you do it from your phone, and how I think I'm going to use it in the future is when I take a picture of something on my SLR, you can take a crappy picture of it with your phone and post it and geotag yourself in the moment and go add your better photos later. And that way you don't have to try to remember exactly where on the trail you were, exactly where in the whatever you were. You have the geotag location and you can update it.
But I'm not following you on iNaturalist. That's crazy.
Yeah, we should be best friends again. So we have a couple of tips on how to do this in a way that is most fun for you and also most useful for iNaturalist uses. So this is actually used by scientists for gathering data. I had a particular personal example this the other day that I love. My husband is a herpetologist, and he's been working in some areas of Southern California and Texas and parts of northern Mexico. And he was debating last week if he should go to Texas this month and look for some woodtail lizards there. And he was debating this trip, and I was like, "Are you decided if you're going to go yet or not?" And he's like, "Yeah, totally not trying to advertise anything." He was like, "Yeah, I was looking at iNaturalist, and it doesn't look like there's any like photos of, there's not any whiptails out like this early in the year. They don't seem to come out really until May. So I don't think it's really worth going out and trying to collect them." And I was like, "Yeah, you're actually using it for real purposes." But they do. Like there are some actual scientific papers published using their data, and then a lot of scientists use it in this more informal way of making decisions about where to go on field work and when to go and stuff. And that aspect is really hard to track. And it's something that I think would be interesting to try to get some hard data on how scientists are using it in a way that's more difficult to track.
Will the whole research grade thing come up later, or do you want to mention about that?
It's coming up, but I can get it once we post it.
Yeah.
So capturing the moment. The idea here is to take photos from a variety of scales. So you may or may not see the lizard in this photo at this scale. But as you zoom in, you will see that here is the lizard. There are two reasons to do this, in my opinion. One, it's good to have some context for where the organism is that you're recording it, particularly so the mushroom people, the fungus people, are all over about what tree or what other plants are around the fungus in particular. But it's also good from a research point of view to know what's going on around the organism you're photographing. Also, you will see this lizard is staring at the photographer and is probably about to run away. And so if you go running up to it to take a photo, you're not going to get a photo of it at all. So taking photos as you approach something that is mobile is a good way to guarantee you get at least a photo of it, even if it's not as close as you would like.
Did you post multiple photos?
You can. Yeah, one observation can have multiple photos. So when I've done this with mushrooms, they particularly like a picture of the mushroom and then of the gills underneath, because that's often an identifying trait, and then a back one that shows what else is growing around it. And so
you cut it in half.
Right. Well, I prefer not to molest
Picture of
the
yourself
organisms.
after you try
Right.
some.
Yes. And so I don't cut the mushrooms in half. Yeah. Please don't cut the animals in half. It's not necessary. Focusing is also key. Here's an example of two, one particularly poorly focused photo and one medium focused photo. A little trick that we've been told is to carry like a white card or a piece of paper with you that you can put behind an object to help your phone focus on it. If you're using a non-phone camera, this can be a little bit easier. But the better in focus you can get the photo, obviously the easier it is to identify. So that's very important. Here's an example of sometimes how animals do not cooperate. Oh yes, as Cliff says, take angles of all sides. For plants, get a whole plant close-up of leaves and flowers. Oh yes, thank you for reminding me of that, Cliff, because that's really critical. I am subject to this as well, where I want to take the most pretty Instagrammable photo of something. And so I totally do that. It will be the prettiest picture of the flower, and that's it. And then I add all of the context photos after that. So the first one you see is my favorite really beautiful photo, but then add all of the ones that are critical for identifying it and using it in a research way as well. Thanks for reminding me of that. Here's an example of that. We have a shell here. You want both sides of the shell and a little bit of a view into the shell, which can help you identify it. And the fingers there give you some scale, which is nice. Ooh, oh, I went too far. Here we have a nice finger for scale again, and taking photos of things from different angles, as Cliff said. Here's a nice one from the back, from the side. Scale on the smaller organisms is really great. And then get to know your camera. Maybe don't hold it in the water.
Unless it's waterproof?
Yes, unless it's waterproof. But as we said, focus is critical. Exposure, cropping it so that you can get the photos large.
Is it okay to take it out of the animal out of the water?
Well, you know, at your own risk. Sure.
I was thinking like
snail on its
products.
Yeah, well, yeah, or the dragonfly nymphs or whatever. If you took a dip into a pond.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Some of these events we're thinking about, this is where our recommendations on this kind of vary by the age and expertise of the group. So when it's a third grade class group, you don't necessarily want them like wading in after the turtles.
Manhandling.
Right, exactly. So
Not
maybe
that we do that every day.
know your bioblitz audience in those decisions, but we trust your judgment.
It starts what time on Friday?
It's all, so
It's all day,
midnight.
every day.
12:01 Friday to 11:59 Sunday. Yeah, Monday. So on finding habitat, remember that habitat is also urban, like you said, organisms in our house or things, the squirrels in the quad do count. Look up, look down, look close, look far away, right? This, one of the things we really like about iNat is that it helps people be more observant about what's around them and how much life is around them all the time. So Ryan even started didn't you start an iNat project for this building?
I was just yesterday doing some ladybugs and painted ladies just right out in the manicured office park.
Yeah.
And yeah, we've actually got, I think, maybe 20 species on our list at this point.
Wow.
For the little Drew Avenue office park.
Yeah,
So,
which is really fun.
jackrabbits hanging
Turkey.
out, turkeys.
Yes. So here's what it looks like in iNaturalist. When you upload a photo, here's the photo that you have uploaded. And then when you click in the species name, it suggests these sorts of things. So we're pretty sure this is in the genus of pelicans. Here's some examples that are visually similar and have been seen nearby where you are. And you can click this word view next to each one, scroll through some photos of a brown pelican, look at its range map, some other information on them that might help you identify it. And then whichever of these, if you're fairly confident it's the species, you can click on brown pelican, or if you're not sure, you can just click on the genus and either have the iNat community help you identify it or come back to it later and identify it again yourself. Oh, let me go back because it showed there.
Yeah, and the location.
Yeah, so here, this little thing is your geotag. And so that's where you can either have it pick up your phone's geolocation, or if you do it from your computer, like I tend to do, you just zoom in on a map and click where you were. And you can change the scale by how confident you are of where you were at. So it lets you kind of ID, I'm confident I was in this exact parking lot taking a picture of this turkey, or I was somewhere, you know, at this end of the trail or whatever.
Something that's important
Is here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this button here tells you captive or cultivated. The City Nature Challenge technically will count captive and cultivated observations for the challenge. iNaturalist is geared around wild organisms. And so we are encouraging people to not do captive and cultivated, even though it counts for the City Nature Challenge.
Which gets blurry.
Right, so captive animals are pretty easy. If it's a pet or if it's in the zoo, obviously it doesn't count. Cultivated plants get more complicated. If it was planted but has not been cared for since then, is it cultivated? You know, the plants in the arboretum, the trees on
a native
campus.
plant that got planted?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So cultivated with plants gets a little more nebulous to define. We would recommend erring on the side of caution, and if you're not sure, call it cultivated, or if it's any plant on campus or in a landscape area, probably call it cultivated, unless it's weedy, and it's pretty obvious that it's not. I took a picture of a dandelion last week, not cultivated. Just so that we can be sure what are wild and what are not wild.
By the same token, though, there's a bunch of cultivated, planted landscaping plants around the building I work in, and I'm like, what are these? Where do they come from?
Yeah.
You know, like what
just
family
like
are
that,
these
yeah.
from?
Yeah.
These are weird flowers.
And the cultivated landscape stuff is a good way to practice when you're first new to it, because it'll help you identify things. It's stuff you might already know what it is, and so you can kind of play around with it and see how it works.
Yeah.
The tags here are also, I think in the tags is where you can identify if it's sign or track instead of a photo of the animal. Before we were recording, we had a question on whether it had to be a photo. It does not have to be a photo. And it's not only photos that count for City Nature Challenge, right? Don't audio files count as well?
It's an observation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has to have, you can make an observation without any evidence. So you can say you saw something or you heard something but not have any documentation of it. That does not count for City Nature Challenge. But any sort of evidence does. If it's a photo, if it's an audio file, that's all.
So is there a way to record an audio file on here?
Yeah.
Or
There's a way to
audio?
upload an audio file.
Yeah. This is showing the picture upload, but you can upload any kind of an audio file as well.
On the computer, I assume then.
Yes. I think from your phone as well. If you record it on your phone, you can can upload it from your phone as well.
Really?
I've never tried.
Yeah,
I haven't tried it either.
I
Yeah,
think
look
I
right
haven't
now.
done it, but I
Makes
think
sense.
people have. Yeah.
I have a question about the captive cultivated. So
Okay.
this crazy plant shows up in my yard. It ends up as a form of tobacco. I didn't plant it. It's popped up the past few years, but I would guess that it's not native, especially in my backyard. You caution on the side of
I would say call that wild.
Yeah,
If
should
it,
I?
if it wasn't planted and it just appeared in your yard, then that's not.
okay.
Yeah.
In fact, that might be of interest for the fact that it's a cultivated species that's just popping up in your backyard,
Yeah.
right?
I don't know what the person
Yeah.
grew in his backyard.
Yeah.
So then once you post it, you have put whatever identification you put. We recommend that you put something. You can post a total unknown, but the people that go in and help ID things tend to follow like, I want to look at birds or I want to look at plants or whatever. So if you at least call it, like, guaranteed you can get it to kingdom level. I'm confident in that. To do that. And then beyond that, people will come in.
Probably even plants.
Yeah, probably. But even if you know nothing about the organisms in your area, you know whether it's a plant or name or not, usually.
You could be confused between the plant.
Yeah, potentially.
I don't see an audio upload on the phone.
We'll come back to it. Yeah, you might have to be on the computer for that. We'll have to double check that.
I was just thinking because that's what all of the bat observations are going to be.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you definitely can upload those, maybe just from the computer. Yeah. So if you put it as detailed as you can get, other people can come in and identify it, and how that will show up on your page. I could actually sign into my iNet page if we want to show them the actual page. Can I do that on your computer here?
Yeah.
Can you figure out how to do that while I'm explaining? Thank you. So other people can come in and either confirm the identification that you made. So if you call it a species, they can say, yes, I agree with that.
Oh,
Or they
that's
can
mine.
suggest a different one.
Okay.
Oh, perfect. So let's look at some of your observations. Here's Ryan's observations. So let's look at a research grade one.
Oh man, I'm so on display now.
Here's the Western redbud that Ryan found. So he has a couple of pictures here that he posted of varying specificities. Nice background photo, nice context. Great job.
I don't always do that.
Ryan identified this as a Western redbud here. And Greenleaf confirmed that that was what is found. If at least 2/3 of multiple people have identified the organism, so it can't just be you, there have to be multiple identifications, and if at least 2/3 of them agree, it is considered research grade, along with some other quality assessment here. So if you have the required information, right, it has the date specified, the location, you do have some sort of evidence of what you found. Here's your ID supported by 2 or more people, and 2/3 of them, you've gotten, it's a wild organism, etc. Then this is a research grade observation. Well, you can change that.
That's a hard one with the native
Yeah.
plants.
It's a native plant, but I'm pretty sure it was planted where that particular one I took a photo of, I think someone planted.
So our
But I don't know.
whole
I
area
don't
where we're going to
actually
be everything's going to be cultivated, and it just doesn't feel,
Yeah.
it doesn't sit well with me because it's a reconstructed one.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's like
Do your
meant to
best.
be
Yeah,
so forth and yeah.
interpret as you choose.
Mhm.
But I would err on the side of, like, we trust your
Is
judgment.
it a managed land or a cultivated land? Right. Yeah.
Supposed to be nice.
Right.
So here's an example of one that is not research grade. You'll see up here it has the little yellow flag that says needs ID. Again, 2 photos. Nice. Oh, look at that beautiful photo. Nice job. Oh, I love that. So here is Ryan. He has identified it as the yellow-haired sunfly, but no one else has responded and confirmed that. So in order to be research grade, it needs at least 2 identifications. So if we scroll down
I
here,
thought the community would come through for me on that one.
well, they failed you.
But yeah, it just takes some time.
So you can see
sometimes.
here it has met all of these other requirements, except it just needs to be supported, have the ID supported by 1 or more. So our ID parties will be identifying things to species grade and confirming IDs already made so that we can get as many research grade as possible.
I haven't looked down to oh, good call.
Oh, very
Nice,
smart.
great.
I've never done
Nice job,
that.
Cliff.
Thank you, Cliff.
Yeah, so you
Oh,
can also,
just for the recording, we'll say, Cliff saying, I often look down to the top identifiers and tag a couple if I'm sure of an ID. So
that they can confirm it.
how do we do? I've actually never done that.
Yes, so you can up
Comments.
here. You can do it in a couple of ways.
Oh,
Here
top
you can,
identifier.
yeah,
there
so
it is.
But you can also, here you can make a comment, and this is where I said that people were talking about my photo. So you can type in here and say, at Lacey Gerhardt, like, do you think this is a yellow-headed sunfly? And I can be like, no, you're wrong. Or yes, you're wrong.
What do you mean is no, the iNat artificial intelligence is wrong? Because you're clueless.
So this is where you can leave a comment, and this is where it operates very much like other social media, and you can have a conversation. I'm going to show you something on my page because you can also do. How do I search for someone here? People. Yeah, because I have a couple that are invasive, and it tags organisms as invasive, and so I want to find. Here I am. You have, this page shows all of your observations to date, which because I've only been doing this for the past 2 years, they're all in California. But let's show the turtle. Where's the turtle?
Left side.
Yes, thank you. I was like, someone will see it. Oh, I needed my identification.
Your observations. Top left. No, go up. Oh.
No, this is mine.
Oh, there we go.
Here's the picture I took of it in the Arboretum. Isn't he cute?
Where is he?
Where is he? Here.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. Up here, I guess he's tiny. Yeah. So first of all, even though my husband is a herpetologist, I did not realize that. Why did I undo that? Because it was like, there's what used to be one species is now split into two. Oh, here it is. So now I put it as the red-eared because it has the subspecies elegans that was split. So I posted it in Scripta because I thought that's what it was, but now they have a subspecies identification, so I changed it. And that was, if you see down here, that was suggested, where someone had confirmed my comment slider, and then somebody else said, no, this is actually a red-eared, which we all then agreed with.
So would it have stayed a research grade?
If everyone agrees on a wrong identification, yes. One of the difficulties.
So if it had stopped at that second comment, then it would have been a research grade identified as a common slider.
Yes. Before this person said red-eared slider, it was identified as research grade under common slider. But this exclamation point here means that it's introduced to that area. I did not even tag it that way. Because of where I took the photo and the species, it knew that it was an introduced species and automatically tagged it. Yeah. So that can be helpful as well.
Cool.
Is that all the stuff we need to show on there?
For now.
Yeah.
For now.
There are a lot of really cool tools about finding what sorts of things have been identified in your area. If you're interested, like who's operating around Yolo Basin or who's operating on campus, there's a way to look at a region and then list the top identifiers in those regions if you're interested in that sort of stuff. There's guides on how to do that on iNaturalist, and you can definitely walk you through it. There's a ton of data on all of the observations, and you can download it all directly. So this is where it becomes really powerful for research, in that for all of the observations that are made anywhere on there, you can subset it by species or region or person or whatever and get everything. Like, far more data than I would ever think was necessary can be dumped out of iNaturalist and used for whatever research purposes you want.
Should we move on to Shelley talking about finding events?
Yes. Shelley, are you with us?
Since we have 5 minutes.
I know.
Sorry, I took too much.
She's blocked.
Okay, I'm here. The timing was actually perfect.
Great. Hi, Shelley.
Hi.
So I can advance the slides for you.
Okay.
Am I right that you were going to talk about this slide, how we help you host an event?
I'm pretty sure that I was, yes.
Oh, great.
Yay!
I thought I had that.
Also, hello everyone, and my apologies for showing up an hour late to this meeting. I've been listening in when I can. So I think Lacey talked a little bit about this in a part of the talk that I heard earlier, but we can help you publicize an event that you want to host through our channels, through social media, through the Sacramento City Nature Challenge pages, and then also through the main umbrella City Nature Challenge. And as Lacey said, you absolutely don't have to do that with us. But it makes a nice grouping. And then the other thing that you can get by sort of like working as a team group is access to all of the Main City Nature Challenge resources, which include, I think on the next slide, I just threw some stuff up that were included. So, for example, people in lots of the cities are making different flyers, things like this, how to participate in the City Nature Challenge. This particular flyer has been translated several times into lots and lots of languages. And so it just helps when you're trying to tell the people who are participating with you how to do things, to, you know, have this nice, easy flyer that somebody's already made for you that gives step-by-step instructions. And then I threw in the sort of draft copy of the press release as well, that you would totally be able to use to publicize, you know, what you were doing in any given city.
You did a great job on the slides over here.
And so my role on this team right now is as a person who has organized city nature challenges in 2 different cities in the past. So I have worked with Leela and Allison, who organized the first City Nature Challenge, and we were on a panel the year that they organized it, and they were talking about it, and I was like, that's the coolest thing ever. I wanted to do that. And apparently there were lots of us saying that. And so the second year, I participated as the organizer for Miami through the science museum I worked for there. And last year, my family had just relocated to Southern Oregon, and I didn't know anybody, and so I just organized it as myself. And so along with the City Nature Challenge bioblitzes, I've also organized a lot of other bioblitzes through my work at the museum. So what I've learned is that having experts on hand is essential. And I put experts in quotes because they don't actually have to be experts. People are frequently uncomfortable with the idea that they have to just go out and find nature. It can be so overwhelming that people have no idea what to photograph. And so if you have people who can kind of steer them in the right direction, so sometimes those experts are experts in one particular type of plant or animal, so that they could be like bird experts or insects or local wildflowers or whatever, and it just could be anybody who has an interest in these things who can kind of point stuff out to participants. It makes participants feel much more comfortable. I apologize, that's my 1-year-old in the background chiming in. But so having people on hand who can just increase your participant comfort level is so important. And then if they have expert knowledge, that's great on top of it. But it really isn't the most necessary part of this. Also tracking your numbers of participants. It's nice to know what you did and what you accomplished, and those numbers can be great later for grant applications or just for reporting back, or for watching growth over time. It took me a while to learn to photograph the event. I was so busy with participants and photographing plants and animals that I would forget to take pictures of the event. But photographing the event it's great. It lets people know what you're doing. It lets you go back and see what you did. Yeah.
It also helps you promote it on social media. So hosting an event, we're really hoping to just flood social media with the fact that this is happening. So if you can take pictures of the events and of the things that you're taking pictures of and post on there too with the hashtag, that really helps us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because it's cool sometimes if you get a really great shot of an organism to just post that. But people are really drawn to other people. And so on social media, people want to see other people doing something cool. And so that helps drive a lot of interest. And then if you can offer goodies, that's great. People like goodies. I assume that the part of this where we say that we have no money has already happened.
No, we haven't said
No,
that.
we have no money.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we have no money. So of the things that we can offer you as resources, those goodies are not included. But things like passports and scavenger hunts for kids are essentially free. And then lots of cities have made really cool stickers and buttons and t-shirts and all sorts of fun stuff, depending on their budgets. So, you know, anything that you can offer free, and it could be a consumable goodie as well. You know, something like, I know for the ID parties, you know, pizza. So all of those things really help increase interaction in bioblitzes.
And it's 5 o'clock now, so if anybody has to clear out, we understand. But we have a couple more things we can talk about for those who can stay.
This is the last slide.
Oh, this is the last slide. Perfect.
Yep. And Shelley just mentioned to have those experts come to your events to help you out. And one of the resources we can provide like before, Lacey is part of Lyle Davis class here at UC Davis, and her students can come to your events and help you out. They're going to get trained on how to use iNaturalist and will be really great stewards. And of course, as I mentioned before, I have a whole peaceful army to dispose of certified California naturalists who are trained in iNaturalist as well and love nature. It's a bunch of nature nerds, so they will come and help you should I put out the call for you. And then there's our team. We're small but mighty, so we might be able to make it to your event if you invite us. There's a lot going on, so no guarantees, but if you say, hey, I could really, really use an extra hand, then we'll make it work. So.
If nothing else, we can leverage our networks to help you find the support you need.
Exactly.
And I can recognize a redbud 2 months out of 12.
And Cliff asked, has anyone reached out to Sac State or the local community college? Old school flyers on the bulletin boards could net some people, maybe with a QR code to download the app. That's an excellent idea. We're working on some flyers to distribute to a variety of venues. And I can't remember if Sac State and some of the area community colleges are already on our list. If they're not, we'll add them.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Or we'll touch base.
Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else on the phone have any questions on, or actually in the room, any questions at this point or ideas?
Wildlife majors also would probably be interested in participating. So like in the spring quarter, it'll be the mammal class and the mammal lab, so kids are learning how to ID mammal species.
Oh, excellent. Do you know who teaches that course?
Kelps.
Okay.
Kelps. So like he might be a good person to reach out to.
Perfect.
And
do you have our notes open? Do you have our notes open? Can you add that in for me to do?
yeah, and like you might be able to convince them to give extra credit to the students for like helping out with this, but
Excellent. Okay.
it'd be good fun for them.
Do you have Dave White in yours? Dave White's at Sac City College,
Okay.
and he's the ringtail and bat person that was recommended for Middle Mountain to Sutter Buttes, but he also does, I mean, he does a lot of things.
Okay. Excellent.
Yeah.
Observations don't have to be, do they have to be tied to an event? Like,
No.
it's just open, right?
Literally, someone who knows
Anything
nothing
going
about
on.
this event happening at all could be hanging out at Tahoe and posting on iNaturalist.
Those are on the California side.
Yes, yes. If they are on the California coast of Tahoe. then-
With the iNaturalist training that we've talked about, cover things like how to, duplicates. Like the turtle you saw,
4 people.
So,
did.
yes,
like,
so that's where duplicates are not a problem.
okay.
Scientifically or for the observation.
Okay,
This is
great.
part of why we count species and not just individuals. Scientifically, they don't generally use it for like population estimates, so it doesn't matter if you're catching surfing a bunch of times. It's more about ranges and times of activity and types of activity. Yeah, so if 9,000 photos of squirrels in the quad end up on there, it's actually totally fine.
And in terms of the competition, they look at the number of observations submitted, in which case 9,000 photos of squirrels counts.
Number of species.
But they also look at number of species and number of observers.
Yeah.
So they're definitely interested in the broadest number of people who even make just one observation.
And a couple of the new categories they're interested in working on now are things like how much more activity there is in this region compared to background activity. So how does the event actually promote activity on iNat? Right. And research grade is a new track that they're following, so not just any observation. Cliff also said he's been in touch with Sacramento Splashy Vernal Pool Tours in the Mather area and Will Richardson at Tahoe Institute for Nature Studies. I also reached out to Will, and I'm not sure, I also reached out to Heather Segali at Tahoe Environmental Research Council. And I'm not sure we're gonna have any formal events there. They're definitely on board for advertising. Tahoe Environmental Research Center, is actually interested in some of their algal invasives. So one thing that we haven't mentioned so far, in a bioblitz, if you as an organization are interested in particular types of species, you could do a bioblitz with a most wanted list and encourage people to look for particular organisms. And they decided not to. When I last talked to Will, he mentioned that they will still be under a lot of snow at the end of April. And so there won't be, it might not be the best time for them. One thing that's interesting though, the less spring-bound areas of the City Nature Challenge are interested in doing a little competition kind of amongst themselves. Chicago was who first floated that. We're not going to have. We're not going to have what everybody else does. Right, so they're interested in looking at how the more wintry locations within the City Nature Challenge operate at that time of year. So there's a lot of sort of subsets of how things are being used or being compared. And the whole point of this is not necessarily to win, for all that, we're kind of committed to winning. But
we're not going to win.
Right. But I think we are. I think we can win. Okay. In fact, I'm considering making one of my class projects be find one way in which we won. Like I don't care how nuanced the metric is. Some way.
Talking about data mining.
Cliff says we're gonna whoop Chicago's butts. So
all right,
yeah, we'll do the best we can on that front. Yeah, so
can we just maybe we can continue this conversation with people who want to stay online, and then
absolutely,
I'll wrap up the recording.
Sure, yeah, wrap up the recording, and let's actually do the iNat practice now.
Okay.
If you'd like.
Okay. Any last minute questions before we all sign off? Anybody?
Well, we'll stop the recording, but if folks want to keep chatting on the, or no, we're going to go outside.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thank you all.